Grip socks are great, but why pay up to $40 for a single pair when you can pay a lot less? Stop wasting money and get yours for just $14.99 a pair at puregripsocks.com.
I get asked for football boot buying advice on a daily basis, and you have to consider that football boots are very much a personal preference thing where everyone's going to like something a little bit different. I always recommend doing a little bit of research before making your purchase, especially if it's going to be online. But once you've done all that and you've made your choice, the hope is that the boots you've picked are the right ones for you. But unfortunately, sometimes you start wearing those boots and they cause problems, which is exactly what I want to talk about in this video. Why do your football boots hurt your feet? Because there's always a reason, and what I want to do in this video is explain to you how to figure out what that reason is. So without wasting too much time, we're gonna get right into it. But first, if you guys do enjoy these advice style videos on the channel and want to see more content like it, please don't forget to support this one with a like. And guys, we are so close to 700,000 subs. If you're not subscribed to the channel already, it would mean a lot to me if you could hit that subscribe button along with the little bell notification so you get notified when my next new video goes live. Fit is everything when you're talking about football boots. Not only is it important when it comes to overall comfort, it's also important when it comes to performance, because while it's the player, not the boots, if you're wearing boots that are way too small, that's going to kill your feet, that's going to affect your ability to perform, and it's even going to potentially cause you long-term injury. If your boots are too big, it kind of has the same effect. Their boots are going to be uncomfortable, and if you have a lot of extra space at the end of your boots, it's going to be difficult to kick the ball properly, or at the very least, consistently. You want everything to fit properly, and this is where, when you get that brand new pair of boots that you're super excited about, you have to be really particular about what actually fits you well and what could potentially fit a little bit better based on a variety of factors. Starting with sizing, because getting the right size is obviously super important, and everyone has their own opinion on how much is the right amount of space to have at the end of your boots. Ideally, you want a perfect fit with no extra space without your toes being cramped or curled in any way at all. If you want that little bit of extra growing room, personally, I would recommend no more than about half a thumb's width. Some people say a full thumb's width. That's ultimately a matter of personal preference, but for me, I don't like to have a lot of extra space at the end of my boots. If the sizing is wrong, it's never going to be right, and it could potentially be your reason for discomfort. Case in point, make sure you get the right size. The shape of your football boots is another factor when it comes to overall comfort, and the thing you have to consider when it comes to big brands making these football boots, or really any brand for that matter, is they try to shape the boots in such a way where they're going to fit as many people as possible. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there, and every single one of those people has a different shape to their feet, which means that not every boot is going to work perfectly for your foot type, regardless of how much you want to wear that specific boot. Ask me how I know, because I lived with blisters in Mercurials throughout my childhood because I was desperate to wear Mercurials even though they were not the right football boots for my feet. Granted, Mercurials have come a long way, and so have a lot of other boots, to the point where I still stand by the saying that most boots will fit most people. However, if you put a pair of boots on and they just don't feel right, whether they're too loose in a spot, whether they are too tight, especially in a spot, whether you find any kind of slippage immediately, especially through the heel, that's something that you have to judge from the very first time you put those boots on your feet, especially if you ordered online. And if you can tell right away that there's something not right about them, it's probably not the right boot for you, and it's probably one of those things that is going to result in some type of discomfort that you may or may not be able to solve. Depending on the materials the upper is made out of, you might get a little bit of stretch, which means if the boots are slightly too tight out of the box, that's going to get better as you wear them in. But so many boots being synthetic and having knitted uppers now, they're really not going to stretch all that much. They more or less have a predetermined shape. So if you find that there's some kind of a significant and very noticeable issue, especially issues in regards to slippage inside the boots that you can feel almost immediately, that's probably not the right boot for you. I've talked about this before, but I'll say it again. People really neglect the importance of a quality pair of socks in relation to the comfort that you're going to get out of your football boots. If you're wearing cheap or old or worn out socks, that could be the cause of you having issues with discomfort in your football boots. And I'm not saying this because I own Pure Grip socks, the most affordable grip socks on the market, available now at puregripsocks.com if you're interested. But a good quality pair of socks really does go a long way in terms of maintaining a certain comfort level. Something else that you have to really keep into consideration is that a pair of socks is a wearable item, just like your football boots are a wearable item. So if all of a sudden you start to feel discomfort and nothing's changed, whether it's your socks or your football boots, changing your socks is probably the first course of action that I would take in hopes of resolving that issue. Also on the topic of socks, if you're finding that there is an excessive amount of slippage inside of your boots, and it's not so much an issue that's related to the fit, it's more so just the lack of grip inside your boots, a pair of grip socks could potentially help you in reducing that little bit of slippage and therefore improving the comfort of your football boots. So you're playing in your boots and you're starting to notice discomfort underneath your feet. Whether it's minor discomfort or a full-on blister in one specific spot, stud pressure could be the issue, where you consider the construction of a football boot is a solid plastic sole plate with individual studs scattered underneath your feet. Every single one of those studs is making contact with the ground first, and you're putting all of your pressure, all of your weight on those individual studs, which means that there's going to be more pressure under your foot in those spots where the studs are located, which could potentially cause discomfort, but it's more so related to the playing surface you're using them on, as well as potentially the age of the football boots. Something else I've talked about a lot on this channel is using the proper stud pattern on the proper playing surface, which means FG boots on firm natural grass, AG boots on artificial grass, soft ground boots on soft ground, etc., etc. Now, what you're going to find is that a lot of people like to wear firm ground boots on artificial grass, or sometimes even soft ground boots on artificial grass, and there's a few different variables here. But what you're going to find when you do something like that, not all the time, but you can run into issues with stud pressure, where you have these studs that are longer than they need to be on a surface where it can't dig in all the way, which means that every time you step down, you're putting all of your weight and all of that pressure is going into little individual spots underneath your feet, which can in turn lead to discomfort and even potentially blistering, even potentially injuries, especially under your heel, because there's just not a lot of padding to a pair of football boots. If you're running on cleats on a surface that doesn't have much forgiveness to it because the studs aren't able to dig in deep enough because the ground isn't soft enough, that's just a recipe for disaster as far as discomfort is concerned. Something else to consider when you're talking about an issue with stud pressure is the age of the football boots. The sole plate's made out of plastic. That plastic will soften up over time, and the softer it gets, the more susceptible you're going to be to stud pressure, because it doesn't have the same structural integrity as when the boots were brand new. So if you're finding that after a year of using the same boots, all of a sudden you developed an issue with stud pressure, it's probably a good sign that your boots are worn out, which is the reason why they're causing you discomfort, and it's probably time for a new pair. Now, the weather is something that you only need to consider if your football boots do not have Nike's ACC technology. If they do, weather is not a factor. Those are good in all conditions, no matter what, even in an earthquake. Now, when I say weather, I'm talking more so the extreme ends of the spectrum. If it's really cold, you're unlikely to run into issues with discomfort due to your football boots. For me, it's typically a struggle to keep my feet warm, so I'll try to wear double socks in colder weather as a means of staying as comfortable as possible. But when it's really hot outside, this is where you are much more susceptible to experiencing discomfort in your football boot, and that has to do with the added heat, the added sweat, and the potential for added friction because of all that extra moisture, where it's kind of like the perfect storm for a blister to develop. So if you find that you've never had any issues with your football boots at all, and then all of a sudden on this anomaly day where it's just ridiculously hot outside and you experience a blister or some kind of discomfort, I can almost guarantee that your issue is not the football boots and more so just the playing conditions. It's one of those things that you can't really do all that much about, although I will say, especially if it's in a tournament type environment where you're going to be playing multiple matches in a single day, is have an extra pair or two of dry socks to change into when you start playing again. That's definitely going to help you out in terms of reducing your potential for blisters and discomfort in really hot weather. Now here's where things can get a little bit frustrating, and when this happens, it's extremely annoying, but hear me out. Sometimes you just end up with a pair of boots that just aren't gonna work for you. You get these new boots, you're super excited, you put them on, they feel great, everything seems to be perfect, and they cause you discomfort and continually cause you discomfort, and you can't figure out why. If you've gone through this entire list of things that I've mentioned in this video and it appears to be none of them, unfortunately, you might just have a pair of football boots that don't work for you, whether it's related to the shape of your foot, whether it's related to how you run, how you move, how you put pressure on the bottom of your feet. Sometimes a football boot just doesn't work out. And that's really the tricky part about football boots, because it is such a precision fit type of footwear in that it's very important that it fits really tight in order to get the feel and performance out of them. It's not like a pair of running shoes where they can be a little bit longer or a little bit wider, and it's not super concerning that you have extra space in certain places. They're made out of materials that are much more forgiving. Football boots are really thin, they fit really tight, they have sometimes a lot of structure, sometimes minimal structure, but it's one of those things where there is a huge potential for discomfort. And sometimes it's just a matter of finding the right pair, and sometimes you just end up guessing wrong. So to conclude this video, my final pieces of advice would be to be realistic with yourself. Try to self-diagnose any potential discomfort or issues with a pair of football boots from the first time that you put them on your feet, because if you can manage to do that, especially if you're ordering online, you have the opportunity to return the boots and exchange them for something else, or maybe even just a size that fits you a little bit better. If you play in boots that are knowingly uncomfortable from day one, it's very unlikely that that's going to change over the lifespan of those football boots. So again, some self-diagnosis is extremely important in getting a pair of football boots that are going to be long-term comfortable for you. Anyways, guys, that's it for this one. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to support it with a like. If you are on the market for a new pair of football boots, you can check out the new releases page on my website, which will be linked down below. There you'll find all of the latest boot releases with exclusive SR4U coupon codes. You'll be able to pick them up below their normal retail prices. If you have any questions regarding anything that I talked about in this video, feel free to leave those down below in the comment section. If you're not subscribed to the channel already, make sure you hit that subscribe button along with the little bell notification so you get notified when the next new video goes live. You can find all my social media information linked down below in the description as well. And other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.